Hello, Camp Ross leaders. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on April 22nd. We're here today to talk about pre-camp planning as the next installment of our Camp Ross webinar series. We're going to introduce ourselves again, though we know we're probably becoming some familiar faces to you, and then go over some housekeeping, and then we'll get started on talking about pre-camp planning and everything that you need to know to be more prepared and feel more prepared for your Cub Scout PAX trip to Camp Ross at the Goshen Scout Reservation this summer. My name is Elizabeth Warren, and I am the director of the Goshen Scout Reservation. So that just means that I not only have the joy and privilege to get to oversee the operations at Camp Ross, but I also oversee all other the summer camp operations, Scouts BSA and High Adventure at Goshen Scout Reservation. And I have on here with me today Sarah Moses. Sarah, will you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Sarah Moses. I'm the camping specialist, so I help out Elizabeth with all things Goshen, mostly on the back end and in multitudes of spreadsheets.
I couldn't do it without her. So, again, today we're talking about pre-camp planning as it pertains to your role as a unit registration contact for your PAX trip to Camp Ross. Some housekeeping things is that there's a function on this webinar called Q&A, questions and answers. So if you have any questions at any point throughout today's webinar, please go ahead and add your question using that Q&A box, and Sarah will be monitoring that throughout the time. We'll have a time at the end of our presentation. I'm thinking we'll probably take 30 to 40 minutes today, and we'll be able to answer any questions that come up on there. This webinar is also being recorded and will be available for view on the NCAC BSA YouTube channel, as well as on the We Own Adventure blog spot. We'll also have copies of the presentation PowerPoint that you can flip through as well. So if you're joining us on a different day, thanks for joining us there as well. Sarah, any other housekeeping from you?
Nothing I can think of.
Wonderful. Well, then let's get started and talking about pre-camp planning. So I wanted to do a brief review of some resources that you as whether you're a unit registration contact, an interested parent, Cub Master, whatever your role is within your pack, these are some resources that are readily available to you right now to help you plan and not just feel prepared, but be prepared for your time at Camp Ross. So we're going to go over, I think, three different resources that I wanted to highlight in case you're not familiar with them. So we have a Goshen Scout Reservation Leader Guide. Now, don't be dissuaded by the word leader. It's for anybody to read. It's available on our forms and downloads page. I've got a link down below, go to goshen.org/Ross, and that'll take you to an area where we have all of our forms and downloads. But the Goshen Leader Guide is applicable to any unit, any scout that is attending camp at any one of the 5 Goshen Scout Reservation camps. So this is a lot of general information that is Goshen Scout Reservation specific, but also has some supporting information that you may find helpful as you're preparing to bring your dens, your packs down to camp. So some things like this include a pre-camp planning timeline. So we're actually going to focus on an excerpt from that today, talking about from end of April on until you arrive at camp. But there's some really great tips and tricks that are in there too, if you haven't seen that already. We have our standards of conduct or expectation for the ways that our scouts, our units behave and hold themselves responsible during their time at the Goshen Scout Reservation. We've got some camp policies, camp services, if you're interested in knowing what are the types of things that'll be in the trading post. Well, there's a lot of information on that in there. Information about how our food service operation happens. There's health and safety in there, transportation. So it's about a 25-page document, but has a lot of really wonderful resources. If you feel that you have a question that isn't answered in there, as always, please reach out to us and we're happy to answer that question. And if the question that you have, we feel, that really should be addressed in there, we'll go ahead and update it so that others can benefit from that as well. So that is the Goshen Scout Reservation Leader Guide that is applicable to all Goshen Scout Reservation camps, including Camp Ross. Now, of course, I understand that there's some information that's more specific to Camp Ross, so I'm sure you're wondering, where can I find that? Well, at the same website, gotogoshen.org/Ross, we also have a Camp Ross specific leader and program guide. Again, you don't have to be, the Cup Master or a den leader in order to read this. If you're the parent that's taking charge and helping to bring your scouts to camp, this is also for you. So again, this is similar to the Goshen one, but more specific to Camp Ross. So in here, for example, is a Camp Ross packing list. We've gone through and worked with other units to determine, what were the things that people wish that they had brought when they attended camp. And we've got everything from what type of equipment you should bring, what type of clothes you should bring, as well as what does Goshen Scout Reservation provide to you in your campsite. So that's the Camp Ross packing list. I really encourage you to share that with your campers if you have not already. There's also information about your arrival day. What's the first day at camp like? Our next webinar in May is actually going to be all about that first day, but you can get an insider look there as well as some general Ross information. It's got some program schedule structure, program activity descriptions. So what's your day-to-day going to be filled like? There's some descriptions as far as activities in there. And new this year is an elective advancement tracker. We know that not everybody is coming purely for electives, but we build our program to support many of the elective adventures that are available in the Webelos and the Hero of Light program. So they're going to end their week having completed lots of these adventures, which is really exciting. And they might not even know that they've done it because they've been having so much fun while it's happening. So we got some feedback last year where people said, it's great that we're doing this, but we don't know quite what we've completed within this as, leaders are following along in their handbooks, for example. So this elective advancement tracker will say, if you participated in this activity, these are the different electives or the different requirements within it that you've completed when you took it. So that is there for your use. And, that's not all, lots of more information in there, but we really wanted to highlight that Goshen Leader Guide to provide general Goshen information, and the Camp Ross Leader and Program Guide to provide any additional Camp Ross specific goods that are there. So again, both of those are available at www.gotogoshen.org/Ross. Two other things that you're going to find that are on there. Again, when I say on there, I mean on the Camp Ross website. We've got a copy of our updated 2025 program schedule. If you're looking at this and wondering, how does the program schedule work? How do I know, what types of activities my scouts are doing during each of these program blocks? We actually talked about that during our February Camp Ross webinar series. So I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and take a look at that, but we do also explain it during our within the Camp Ross Leader and Program Guide. So I just want to show that this is available on the website for your download. You'll get a copy of your pack specific schedule upon your arrival at camp. And last, we have a new Camp Ross map. So I have to thank Sarah Moses and another volunteer, Eric Damtoft, for making this recently. So much more legible, easier to read. I think it looks like a fun adventure map. So this is our new Camp Ross map, which you'll also receive copies of upon your arrival at camp, but is available to look at, print out, whatever you'd like to do on the Camp Ross web page. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about some tools that currently exist for you in order to help, prepare you, your unit, parents, whoever, to attend Camp Ross. I mentioned we were going to go a little more into pre-camp planning, which is listed in the Goshen Leaders Guide. So up to this point, we had some preparation kind of kickoff meetings in November to talk about what is Camp Ross, getting your unit engaged and signed up to go to camp, all the way up until a few weeks ago, which was the end of our early bird timeline. So after April 15th, the cost of camp increased, but Sarah and I wanted to just say, we know that we've been helping a few different packs troubleshoot some, maybe trouble or issues that they were having during that early bird registration process. So if you are one of those packs that's having a little bit of difficulty navigating that system, please reach out directly to Sarah and I. We're happy to help. And we just want your scouts to be able to come to camp and have the best summer experience possible. So, like I said, we've had early bird about week and a half ago. So now let's talk about what we should be doing as unit registration contacts for the rest of I guess, the rest of the spring season as we head up into summer. Okay, so I know that we're kind of approaching, we're in the last full week of April. So I'll combine these two to be April and May. Um, We've talked about how it's required for anybody that's attending, what we call a long-term resident camp. So you're staying at a camp for longer than 72 hours to have your Scouting America annual health and medical record. So that's parts A, B, and C. We will talk about that more in depth in just a little bit. So I'm going to gloss over this a bit, but we want to make sure that our scouts and our attending adults have scheduled a physical because Part C of the medical form requires a medical provider signature, for example. And I know that that can take a little while sometimes to get on a doctor's schedule. So we want to check in on the status of the Scouting America annual health and medical records so that they've been complete before arriving at camp. I did actually get a really great question from a pack leader the other day asking, well, what happens if I'll use July 15th as an example. What happens if my Part C medical form of the medical form expires on July 15th and I'm at camp the following week? Do I need to, figure out a way to get a physical in between then? And the answer is actually no. Your medical form is good through the end of that month of the following year. So if you did your physical, let's say July 15th of 2024, your medical forms are good until the end of July of 2025. So I just want to preface that in case anybody looks at their forms from previous years and gets a little concerned about that. But anyway, back to our scheduled program. We want to check in on the status of those medical forms and make sure that everybody has that before they arrive at camp. We want to make sure that we're chatting with our unit about what your transportation arrangements are in order to get to the Goshen Scout Reservation. Is your pack planning on driving yourselves in vehicles? If so, that's great. About 2/3 of our units choose to do that. But what's your plan to, get together maybe at your meeting location at a certain time so that you can caravan all the way together? I will preface that it's a much smoother experience when you arrive at camp. If everybody arrives within the same 20 to 30 minute period versus one group arriving an hour before the other group does. So what's your travel plan to coordinate that? If taking your own vehicles isn't something that you're interested in, we do have a bus service. We provide bus transportation out of 2 locations. One of them is in Largo, Maryland. Another one is in the Fairfax Government Center in Fairfax, Virginia. So those sales for tickets, Sarah, remind me of the cost. Is that a $90 ticket this year?
Yes, that'll be about $90.
So a $90 ticket to get from one of those locations that you choose all the way to the Goshen Scout Reservation and then back at the end of the week. So again, bus tickets go on sale through your standard camp registration on May 1st. I highly encourage hosting some type of pre-camp parents meeting. This is where you can inform them of, what your travel plan is, for example. Sarah and I are actually working on putting together a pre-camp parents meeting example, just to give you a few suggested talking points to go through that. But the earlier that you have those conversations with parents who have scouts that are attending, with your fellow adult leaders that are coming with you, you're going to find that to be much smoother going into the month of June. And last on my list for April and May of our 4 bullet points is we want to make sure that we're identifying and updating any food allergies or dietary restrictions that each of your participants have and putting that onto your unit registration. So when you were signing up, yourself, each of your scouts to attend camp, there's an area under each individual's kind of profile, if you will, where it allows you to put in any type of medical concerns and food allergies and dietary restrictions. This really helps us as the Goshen Scout Reservation to best plan for your unit's time at camp. If we know that somebody is vegetarian, for example, we can make sure that we have that food ready and prepared for them. And it's much better to do that ahead of time. So we ask that that information be updated as soon as possible, minimum 2 weeks before arrival at camp, but that is when we order food for your session. So identify and update food allergies and dietary restrictions. Most of this should be available on your Scouts medical forms, but always good to check in and see if something is updated or changed. All right, we're gonna fast forward and suddenly it's June or maybe July, depending on when you're arriving at camp. We're gonna talk about 2 weeks before you arrive at camp. Um, we have a section just next where we're going to talk about paperwork that you should bring with you. But one of those pieces of paperwork deals with who's attending camp. So we just talked about updating everybody's food dietary restrictions. Now we want to make sure that our roster is accurate. Is everybody that's attending camp listed as active and registered as part of your Camp Ross registration? And similarly, on our next point, we're going to ask that you print out a copy of your unit roster that's available on My.Scouting, and we'll have instructions available for you. A member of your Key 3 in the pack should have access to this. And that unit roster needs to have each Scouts and adult leaders Scouting America ID. We'll talk about adult leader requirements in a moment because I know not all adult leaders attending are required to be registered, but those that are need to have their Scouting America ID as well as when their youth protection training was last taken and its expiration date. Part of the reason why we do this is we have to ensure that we're all following our Guide to Safe Scouting and youth protection standards. And part of that is that all youth that are in attendance at a scouting event, like a long-term camp, must be registered in the program. So this is to ensure that you're double authenticating this, and then we will as well when you arrive at camp. Last is a follow-up to have people been, registering or not registering, taking initiative to get their medical forms taken care of at a doctor's office. You want to start to collect those 2 weeks ahead of camp so that you have them on file. Because when you arrive at camp, we're actually going to store those in the first aid station. That way, if one of your scouts is injured, for example, maybe they have a cut, we always pull out a copy of their medical form to review as we're providing treatment. So I actually recommend having 2 copies available, one that stays in the first aid station and another one that can stay with you. And last, we want to review our packing list with scouts and prepare any unit equipment that is going to be coming with you down to Camp Ross. So reviewing your packing list is actually a great thing to do as part of that parents meeting or the pre-camp meeting that we discussed, but always good to review it as well 2 weeks ahead of time. All right, last on our list is 1 week before camp. You're about to arrive at Camp Ross. You want to gather all those documents and paperwork that we've discussed. And I recommend organizing it into some type of unit binder or folder. There should be one person that is charged with this, and they are kind of a paperwork person. That might be you as the unit registration contact. That might be somebody else, but there should be one person and knows where all those files are for your unit. We're also going to finalize all rosters and financial balances. So during our next webinar, when we're talking about your first day at camp, we'll talk about the reconciliation process. And that's just making sure that your account is all finalized and closed out, up to date, before your scouts head on to a really exciting and wonderful week at Camp Ross. And that's also where we'll review all those rosters, for example. So don't worry, I know that was a lot of information that we just gave you to do between now and the start of camp, but we'll make sure that this is sent out to you and available for your use. All right. So I've had a few questions still coming in about adult leader requirements. So in lieu of a safety moment, we kind of wanted to review this today just to make sure that there's no further confusion on it. So this information is also available for review on the Goshen website on our registration page, as well as in the Goshen Leader Guide. But let's go ahead and review adult leader requirements as it pertains to units attending Camp Ross. All right, lots of words I know, but I want to make sure that you can reference back to it. So we know that at any point of time, every unit, so every pack, must have at least two adult leaders present that are over the age of 21 and are registered members of Scouting America. If you have a female youth that is attending with your pack, one of these registered adults must also be female. That is from the Guide for Safe Scouting and Scouting America policy. Any other adult that is attending with your pack is not required to be a registered leader. However, if they're attending, they must also be accompanied by registered leaders when they're with other youth scouts that aren't their own child. Camp Ross does require a 1-to-4 adult to scout ratio with a minimum of those starting two adults per unit. So if you have, oh, Sarah, this is where I'm going to struggle with some math. If I've got, let's say, 10 scouts, Sarah, how many adult leaders would I need to bring?
So let's see, we've got 10 scouts, so 10 divided by 4. So that's you get 8 covered by the first two, and then you need a third adult to cover those two that get you over that 8. So you would need 3 total adults.
Thank you. And of those three total adults, two of them would need to be actively registered members of Scouting America.
Yes, and if that third adult is a parent attending with their child or a parent guardian attending with their child or ward, they do not need to be registered, but they need to be accompanied anytime that they are with other scouts. But they do still count
Mhm.
toward that ratio.
Great. And we do actually highly recommend that any, adult, oh, I know that we use the term adult leader just generally to refer to any adult that's attending any one of our scout camps, but we really encourage that they take youth protection because that's available to anybody. You don't have to be a member of Scouting America in order to have, an account on My.Scouting and to take that training. There's also a like a Cub Scout youth protection variant training. It's a booklet pamphlet. The name slipping my mind, but that's available in every Cub Scout handbook. So that's also a great resource to review before arriving at camp. Last on my list is that one of your leaders must be Baloo trained. This is another Scouting America policy, and Baloo is a wonderful training that helps you as an adult leader to get more comfortable with taking your scouts into an outdoor camping setting. We have put into one of our more recent emails that if your pack is having difficulty finding a Baloo training in order to get one of your adults Baloo certified, to message Sarah and I, because we're looking at the possibility of spinning up some additional Baloo trainings to meet those needs. So, um, in case there are any questions, please go ahead and pop them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to come back to them once we get to the end of our presentation. All right. So let's discuss some documents to bring with you to camp. And as I mentioned, all this is also available in the Goshen Leader Guide. We're just going over it again just to make sure that you've got the information that you need. So we mentioned a unit roster. So your unit roster is, I believe, generally available to any member of your key three. So for most packs, it's going to be your Cub Master, a committee chair, and your chartered organization representative. But we ask that you present a copy of your unit roster to the camp administration. That's a part of your day one reconciliation process that we mentioned earlier. And on here, we need to see current Scouting America member IDs for all attending youth and then those registered adult leaders. Again, we don't need to see them for adults that are not registered as long as you've got those two registered adults with your unit. If you have any questions about pulling this information, we're here to absolutely help with that. I recommend turning to a member of your key three first, or maybe your unit commissioner. But I would look at this probably sooner rather than later in case somebody was maybe dropped accidentally during the recent renewal process. That's much easier to rectify now versus a week before you need to arrive to camp. So we just want to make sure that everybody has their Scouting America registrations properly in place. All right. Next is our annual health and medical record. Sometimes we just shorten this to MedForm or AHMR, but MedForm is a little more colloquial. So as somebody that's attending a long-term summer camp, you need to have parts A, B, and C. Now, on the off chance that you're a leader who's splitting a week, I know that we haven't talked about that quite yet today, but splitting a week just means that you're choosing to spend half the week at Camp Ross, and another leader is taking your spot for the other half of the week. So if you're with us at Camp Ross less than 72 hours and you are not participating in aquatics programs, you don't need Part C, but probably better to get. So just to make sure that all your bases are covered. But any scout that's attending for the full week, for example, must have parts A, B, and C. I've just got page A kind of posted up here. But I wanted to bring in a few notes on things that I've noticed that gets missed sometimes. And when areas of the medical form gets missed, we generally have to send you to our local urgent care to get that completed because it does have to be up to date and accurate in order for you to spend time at a long-term camping facility. So, for example, as I've mentioned a few times, Part C requires a physician, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant's signature. So that's very important to get taken care of. And then there's two additional pieces that are kind of hidden in smaller text that sometimes get missed that we wanted to highlight. So for example, on Part A, actually it's on the second page of Part A, it asks for a photocopy of your insurance card for the front and back. We don't need your original insurance card, just a photocopy that's stapled into part of this packet for every person. And the reason why we ask for that is if there's a case where somebody gets injured, for example, and they need to go to the local urgent care or go visit emergency services, we have a copy of that paperwork there with them as a part of their medical form. And the last one that we see people sometimes missing is that Part B, more specifically B2, requires your up-to-date immunization records. Now, the only required immunization on the Scouting America medical form is your tetanus immunization, and that's required to be received within the last 10 years. So all others are not required, but your tetanus specifically is listed as required. So we saw that get missed a few times this last summer. So that's your annual health and medical record. The last piece of paperwork that we have is your pre-event medical screening checklist. I know that's a mouthful. This is also available on that go2goshen.org/Ross webpage. And this is a unit-specific health form that actually came out during the years post-COVID, but we really use it to help mitigate the spread of viral illness at camp. So this is to be done on the day that you were going down to Camp Ross for your trip. And we're just making sure that people don't actively have a fever or they're vomiting or diarrhea or new coughs, sore throat. So any of those main symptoms of viral illness, we want to make sure that if you or a scout is sick, that home is more than likely going to be the best place for you than camp, and we don't want to spread that to other people. So that is your pre-event medical screening checklist, and we take a look at that as part of your arrival at Camp Ross. So again, I'm just going to flip through them because I know we've gone one by one. And these pre-camp documents are listed in our Goshen Leader Guide. So we have your unit roster so that we can verify Scouting America registration and youth protection. We have your annual health and medical record. I always recommend a copy and not the original document because sometimes they accidentally get left behind at camp. We want to make sure that you've got the original files with you. And then last is that pre-event medical screening checklist. You may see when you're looking at the GSR Leader Guide that there's a few additional documents that are listed. Those additional documents are listed for Scouts BSA or High Adventure specific, so you don't need to worry about them at this stage in your scouting journey, but in the future, that could be something that's available to you too. Okay, well, I mentioned that this is going to be a bit of a shorter webinar today just to go over pre-camp since a lot of it's available for you to read as well in those documents that we've reviewed. But do we have any questions to talk about some of those materials that you need in order to feel best prepared for your trip to Camp Ross this summer.
We do have some questions.
Wonderful.
First one is a little off topic, but will there be any trainings for adult leaders this summer?
Yes, we're actively working with our training committee to make sure that we've got some Baloo classes spooled up. I'm sorry that I don't have a finalized schedule for you because we're still identifying some trainers, but I know that week 6, for example, we've got 6 people that are interested in Baloo. So we're working very hard to make that available for you. But my plan is for that to be available within the next 2 weeks.
All right, and then we've got a uh, medical form question. For those folks that are active duty or TRICARE, our military folks, um, so I'll just read the question. For the insurance card, I'm active duty and don't have actual cards for my dependents. I'm not allowed to copy my military ID. What do you suggest? I usually just write active duty dependent. That's the question.
Okay. I don't have that answer off the top of my head, though I know that we've had that come across sometimes. If you're not authorized to have a copy of your medical form that or sorry, of your card, absolutely do not breach that. And I would just make sure that you inform any other adult leaders that are there of the best person to contact in order to get the correct insurance information for your scouts.
Alrighty. And our next question, this one's one that we run into periodically, but what options are there if we have a female scout but can't find a female leader to attend with our pack?
Sarah, can I actually ask you to take on that question?
Sure. Um, so with this one, we still want everybody to be able to attend camp. So the first step is to try to find that female leader. Give it your best effort, keep us informed, and then uh, if you still aren't able to find that female leader, make sure to contact us, and we'll see what we can arrange. Generally, maybe we can pair you up with another group, or there's a small Phoenix Nest group that is bringing a female adult leader. But we want to make sure that all of our scouts have the ability to attend camp. But so yeah, first step is try to find that female leader from your own pack. And if you aren't able to, please contact us to see what we can do to make sure that your scouts can attend.
I will broaden that a little bit because I know that most of you are probably trying to find that adult leader within your own pack. Of course, I know that Camp Ross is generally a one den to two den with our Webelos and Arrow of Light Scouts activity. So, offering that opportunity to another registered female adult leader in your unit. Also, going to your district roundtable is a really great resource where you can put out that call. Maybe if you're a feeder pack for a Scouts BSA troop, for example, they may have an adult leader that's a female adult leader that's available to attend. We actually do this for our high adventure crews where we've got a vacancy list where we say, this unit needs XYZ adult or they need one more scout. And we found that to be successful by working within the district as well. So your district roundtable is definitely a wonderful resource too. But as Sarah mentioned, please keep us informed. We've got some tabs on units that are in that similar situation, and we're going to make sure that all your scouts are able to attend camp and we're following Scouting America guidelines.
All right, and those are the questions that were in the question box, so we'll give it another moment to see if we get some other questions that show up.
Wonderful. Well, in the meantime, I'll just vamp. I want to highlight a few different really exciting opportunities that are coming up at the Goshen Scout Reservation this summer. I know we've got lots of people that we've got a mix of people that have been to Camp Ross before, and people that are brand new to Camp Ross and brand new to the Goshen Scout Reservation. So if you're interested in an opportunity to get to know camp a little bit more before you arrive, we have Goshen Scout Reservation Family Camp that's happening this upcoming Memorial Day weekend. It also happens over Labor Day weekend, so Friday through Sunday at Camp Olmsted, which is one of our Scouts PSA camps just across the lake from Camp Ross. We have this really, really awesome week of fun and family adventure, and it gives you a taste of what it's like to spend some time at camp and at the Goshen Scout Reservation. It's personally one of my favorite activities. We get to do some tie-dye and we get to spend time on the lake doing aquatics with boating and swimming. We have rock climbing available. In the past, we've had a giant swing available for anybody ages 10 and up. We have range and target activities, so BBs, archery. We do a shotgun competition for adults that want to join. Really, it's just a full weekend full of awesome scouting adventures. And all you have to do is have one member of scouting in your group in order to attend. So you can bring family and friends that might be interested in joining scouting, or you just want to reconnect with while you're disconnecting from, I'll say, your phone, for example. So that's a really exciting time. Registration's currently available on the Go to Goshen website. We've got a page just about family camp. And then if you're interested in, let's say, helping us with camp beautification and camp service, we will be sharing some service project opportunities at Camp Ross within the upcoming weeks, I promise. But we have a volunteer service weekend where anybody ages 18 plus can come down. That is, let's see, May 9th through the
Or
11th.
the volunteer service weekend is open to youth as well.
It is open to youth as well. We have age appropriate activities for them. That's May 9th through 11th. We've got this great volunteer service weekend, and we have a volunteer adult form where you can say, hey, I'm going to be at camp during week 2, and I'd love to help out with, facilities things while I'm there. So we've got a formal process for people to sign up and put their names down for that. But I know that was a lot to go over. All of that's available on our website as well and recent leader update communication. Any more questions, Sarah?
All right, I haven't seen any more questions come in. So if you need the slides for this, they will be posted on the council blog, which is weownadventure.com later this week, as well as the recording. And if you need any of this information, you can find it on www.gotogoshen.org.
Thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.